We want to prep the system to receive. We want to set up the vessel to receive. Where have we heard that before? We're going to set up the digestive vessel, the stomach, the Buddha belly. We're going to set this guy up so that way, whenever you eat a meal, you're actually digesting it properly. And by the way, what I'm going to teach you right now is a secret way to lose weight. This is going to burn fat off your body like a bonfire. This shit is so ninja. When I first learned it, I didn't believe it. And I tried it for 15, 30 days. I literally couldn't fit in a lot of my pants and my shirts were like hanging off of me. So this is a really interesting thing, and it's priming your digestion. So here's what you do. There's a few options too, by the way. What do you know? I'm going to give you a couple options to make it really simple. So option one, you probably have heard of it. It's called apple cider vinegar. So apple cider vinegar is something you can actually take before your meal. And the thing is, apple cider vinegar is a miracle, is an absolute miracle. Like there's a lot of good supplements and products out there, but honestly, when it comes down to like simple things in your cabinet, believe it or not, some of the best stuff is right there. Some of the most quality products you can get are simple ones. If you get good apple cider vinegar with the mother, meaning you have the actual mother strain, the digestive, the mother that actually contains all the essence and exuberance of the apple cider, that's the thing that's going to go proliferate the lifespan of the apple cider and make it. It actually is like it's birthing. So you got to get it with the mother. This means you can't buy it at Costco and a lot of these places unless it's organic and unless it explicitly says with the mother, and it needs to say raw. Because the issue is if you don't get it where it says raw, that means it's been pasteurized. It's heated above a certain temperature to kill off the bacterial strains, which you actually want in your body. These are healthy bacterial strains that actually rebalance the microbiome, if you've heard of that. Have you guys heard of the microbiome? Sound familiar? Bingo. Okay, awesome. The microbiome you want to support. And when you actually give it living enzymes, things like kombucha, apple cider vinegar, you've seen Owen drinking Jun or June, people call it different names, which is basically another form of kombucha, sauerkraut, kimchi. There's a lot of different options spanning all different cultures. You want to give your body this extra boost because the problem is a lot of the foods we eat nowadays are killed. There's not a lot of living nutrients in them. We're not drinking a lot of green juices. Not that that's even necessarily the best health diet. We're not eating a lot of raw salads. You know, we're probably eating a lot of the time when you look at it, a lot of red meat, a lot of fish, and a lot of things that are good. It's not that they're bad, but it's like when it's an overabundance of it, it's not as nature intended. When you think of what our Paleolithic ancestors would have eaten, it would have been a lot more natural. We wouldn't have had meat all the time. And I'm not a vegan, I'm not saying that, but I'm trying to make it clear, like we got to look at our balance of living foods versus, let's say, killed foods that have a lot of minerals, which are good, but not a lot of the living enzymes that you actually need. That's when you add in things like apple cider vinegar, you're getting a strong dose of it. Now, apple cider vinegar has a very interesting effect on the digestion. It's actually what you could call something that has a lot of chi energy. It's very fiery. And this chi energy in the esoteric culture, this is actually something to fire up the system. If you eat things like garlic or onion, these can fire you up. In fact, garlic is so strong that in some Buddhist temples in Tibet, they only eat garlic once a year, and it's a garlic that ferments for nearly the entire year. It's a black garlic. And they only take it once a year because it's so strong, it can actually affect their digestion for weeks. That's because they've reached a state of awareness through so deep levels of meditation, so deep into the transcendental meditation that they're aware of how these foods are affecting them. So these foods are always affecting us. And we want to be able to nourish our body, but not overstimulate it. Believe it or not, there is a way to be over immune where you could be actually, your immune system's overstimulated. That's called inflammation. So if you guys have back pain or any issues where you're inflamed or you're having things like headaches, this can actually be a symptom of being overstimulated, taking too many really chi rich foods like garlic or onion. It's taking too much of these oily foods into our system. So in proportion, they can be great. It's not that you don't want to eat onion or garlic. They're awesome, but you want to eat in proportion as nature intended, which is not like every single meal. So apple cider vinegar is going to fire up your digestion. It's going to give it a lot of raw nutrients that your body needs, and it's a living enzymatic quality. And what a lot of people notice with apple cider vinegar, it makes their skin incredible. It's really good for the skin, and even some natural hair care products at Air One will actually have things like apple cider vinegar in them. So you could even weirdly use your apple cider vinegar in the shower. You can use it in your scalp. You can use it on your skin. It's really good if you have things like blisters or acne or like any irritation on the skin. So it's a miracle food, as you can see. And again, it's in your cabinet. Try to get it in glass. That's also a big thing. A lot of these products, like Bragg's is a common one. You guys have probably seen like Bragg's apple cider vinegar kicking around at like Whole Foods in different places. It's good, but key is try to find like a local small brand to where you guys live and get it in glass, because when you have things in plastic, as you know, the plastic actually leaches over time into the product. And then you're taking in PCBs and all these different chemicals that are in the plastic. So you actually don't want to have that in plastic. Make sure it's in glass. So glass, and you want to have it raw, key point. And how much do you take? Dosage. Medicines become poisons very quickly when taken in too strong of a dose, and poisons, when taking in the right proportion, can actually become cures. If you look at homeopathy, if you were to get poison ivy on your legs, which will happen when we're in Big Sur, I hope not, God forbid. But let's just say some poison ivy smacked our legs. Weirdly, what homeopathy discovered, the German science, is that like cures like. So if you actually take the vibration, this is going to get a little esoteric just for a quick sec, but it's actually proven to work. If you take the vibration and you give that vibration to yourself in what's called a succussion, where they actually take poison ivy, they put it into a liquid and they succuss it, which is they shake it rapidly 30, 40, 50 times. They then take a drop of that liquid and they put that drop into another vial of saline solution. Then they shake that. And they do this over and over again, sometimes 10 to 20 times of doing this. By the end, when you actually look at it, there's really no particle left of poison ivy, but they're trying to extract the vibration from poison ivy to create an effect. And when you actually take a homeopathic for poison ivy, which, because I'm a mushroom hunter, I'm in the woods a lot. So I've had people actually get poison ivy. I've seen it firsthand. When they take that homeopathic tincture, by the way, I've even placebo blind tested this. I didn't tell them it was even a cure. I just said, take some herbs and stuff. They're good for you. I didn't say anything about the poison ivy, like, oh, so just help with digestion. Sure enough, the next day, poison ivy completely gone, which is very rare. It usually lasts much longer. So homeopathy is pretty special. I would look into it. It's very interesting. There's a lot of bullshit around it, but it's an interesting science. So anyways, back to the apple cider vinegar before your meal. How much do you take? Proportionately, I would not, for a beginner, take more than 1 tablespoon. And you can just take it straight, just like shake it a little bit so you get a little bit of the mother, a little bit of that living enzyme. Take 1 tablespoon before any meal. Now, don't do this every single day, because again, what was I just saying about chi? You don't want to overly fire up your system with it. It's too intense. So this is something as like a special weapon you pull out maybe 2-3 times a week before a meal. Have your 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. Next question, or I should say next answer, is coconut oil. Everyone has it. It's a miracle. It's a weapon. It's amazing for the body in so many ways. We actually put some in our coffee today. We had a bulletproof coffee. Ibrahim put a generous dose, let me put it that way. And if it's too generous of a dose, you end up going to the bathroom for most of the day. You clear your digestive system completely out. So you can feel good from that, but it can also be a little uncomfortable. So be conscientious about how much you're using. But coconut oil is actually something that primes the intestines. It sets up the intestinal tract. That actually is how your body is going to eliminate poisons. It's like your sewer or your gutters. It's going to cleanse this and prepare the vessel to receive. And by getting it before the meal, you'd be shocked at how quickly you'll even notice you don't gain weight even when you eat a lot of food. And a lot of people have reported this is like a secret little weight loss cure. So this is good for helping you digestively like absorb food, because it's such a fatty, rich food. It's got medium chain triglycerides, which are really critical for energy absorption. They help your ATP, which is basically at your back. You have adrenal glands. It'll actually nourish these adrenal glands and help you create things like adrenaline, testosterone, and help convert food into energy. So coconut oil will help you with lethargic feelings after a meal, and it'll also help you lose weight and absorb nutrients, and it's super good for you. So the same dosage for experts, not for like this 1 tablespoon is just for this. Be careful you do not do that. If you're just starting, just do 1 teaspoon. This is strong. Like, I'm serious, you will go to the bathroom nonstop if you do too much of this, especially before a meal when you don't have anything in your stomach to coat. This is just to prime things. It's not meant to like go through a meeting with Jesus here. Like this isn't like some type of biblical experience you want to have. So just 1 teaspoon is all you need. You don't need to go further than that. The next thing, by the way, do you guys have any questions? I don't want to go too fast here. I want to make sure you guys are clarified on all this. Apple cider vinegar and coconut oil. Yep. Rob, you're good? Everyone's good? Perfect. Let's play. This is an easy one. This is one I actually do at restaurants because, you know, if you go out for a meal with your friends. Now, by the way, I'm also someone who's like 90-10, 80-20, meaning when I go out with people, I get pizza, I get burgers, I have fun. I don't do it as often. I don't do it even that often at all. But when I do, I like to enjoy myself. So this isn't about being extremist. It's not about being dogmatic about only one diet. It's actually just living in balance and enjoying your life and living vibrantly healthy and feeling good all the time. Not having brain fog after a meal or digestive cramps or feeling lethargic. So the secret little key here, before you go to a when you're at a restaurant and before you eat your meal, what do you order for a drink? This is critical. And this alone, even if you were to eat a really good meal at a restaurant, can fuck you up. You don't want to have ice water, and the server will always bring you ice water. Always. They always bring ice water. In Chinese medicine, one of the things that they really advocate against is they don't like your feet getting cold. It's a very specific principle in Chinese medicine. So they always say, make sure you bundle your feet because you lose a lot of energy that way. And you never want to drink cold beverages. Now, never is a strong word. I don't go with that as far as Chinese medicine goes in that practice, but I would say this. When it comes to eating, don't drink ice cold beverages right before you eat. It will absolutely stunt your digestion. The best thing you can actually do to like support your digestion, get hot water and get lemon, a slice of lemon or lime. By the way, lime is better than lemon. Lime typically is less genetically modified, you could say, or hybridized than a lemon will be. So if you can order a lemon, that's bonus points. But get hot water and lemon before a meal and just sip on that. The lemon will actually prime your intestines as well as your esophagus. So it actually primes the entire system and it's very alkaline. So although it feels acidic on the tongue, when it absorbs into the body, lemon is alkaline. And when you consume alkaline foods, it is good for digestion and it's actually great for your body. Cancer and disease have a very hard time surviving in an alkaline rich environment. That's why you see like a healthier diet is kind of what you expect. Salads, it's going to be green juices. It's going to be foods with a lot more living particles to it. Fruits, these all turn to alkaline in the system. And there's a pH scale. 0 is absolutely like the most acidic and 14 on the scale is the most alkaline. Body generally is less than 7. Optimally, it should be about 7, 7.1. That's like alkaline. And when you're in this alkaline state, that's when you feel the best too. So hot water and lemons are a really good way to actually activate that alkalinity state. And it's so easy. And basically anywhere you go is going to have that. So get the hot water, get the lemon. Of course, there might be fluoride and chlorine and 21 pharmaceutical drugs as commonly known is in the water supply, but look past that and just drink your hot water and lemon, and that will help prime your digestion and get you ready for the meal. And by the way, the lemon can also be really good for cleansing the palate. So it can actually prepare you to receive on the tongue and enjoy the meal to its fullest extent. So these are some of the pre-games I like to do before I actually even eat a meal. And this really, really will make a big difference. Any one of these, you can do them all if you want, or do any one of the things I'm going to recommend on each of the steps, and it will make a pretty big difference, pretty noticeable. And I've tested this over 10 years. 10 years of like researching and learning from really amazing mentors, some of the top people in the field, just like Owen with self-help. I've met some of the same Owens in the health field and directly trained under them. And it's funny, it always comes down to simple things. Like game is kind of the same. It's the simple principles that actually, if you master the basics, it becomes so easy. When you learn, for instance, free association, how easy is it then just with that one skill? If you learned almost nothing else, how amazing does things get? It's incredible. Or if you learn inner game and really master that, it changes all the other aspects of it. And that's the whole thing with health is any one thing you do is intrinsically connected to the whole system. If you work on digestion, you are immediately then working on your blood. You're then working on your skin. You're then working on anti-aging. You're working on all these different factors and layers. So that's the really cool thing is it can get into a positive momentum cycle with health and wellness very quickly. And once you're in it, you don't want to leave it. You don't want to not drink your Jun or kombucha. to take the John away from Owen would be literally an impossibility. If you were to tell him not to drink it, it would be like telling someone who's addicted to Coke, not Coke like the drug, but Coca-Cola, or wine. Like, you can't drink this anymore. They would have a fit. Owen would probably have a fit if you couldn't drink kombucha anymore, because it feels so good. And it's so positive. It's so net positive that it pulls you into an upward spiral, and health gets easier as time goes on. It becomes fun. Then you actually kind of weirdly like going to Air One and getting a salad. You're like, I feel good because I'm eating my salad. It's so nutrient dense and my alkalinity is going up. It's so strange how that is, but it really does become enjoyable. So we'll get warm water. Basic bitch shit. Okay. Or hot. Could be hot and then go plus lemon.
Shane, is it better to get warm water or hot water? Like, what sort of temperature?
I would go hotter than room temperature. You don't want to go obviously crazy hot, but it's not bad to go a little hotter than room temperature. But again, this isn't something you have to be like too precise with it. It's, warm tea, hot tea, it's kind of within the ballpark, but you definitely want to have it usually warmer than room temperature. If it's scalding, yeah, cool. Just take your time. When you're actually now eating your meal, there's a few things you can do that are going to dramatically help you digest it and absorb the most amount of nutrients. Because again, it's like going to the gym. Like what Munir would share is when you're at the gym, I'm sure he would say, when you're going to pick up weights, the best thing is for you to learn the actual technique and really master it before you start trying to go crazy with the sets. Because if you don't learn how to do the technique properly, how much results are you even going to get? So let's really learn like these little things that make every single thing work. And then these are principles that are carried over into a lot of other things. And by the way, when you do eat this way and you feel really good, everything else in life is easier. It's easier to pick up a book and do a research and study and learn. It's easier to do business. Like running my business, I don't even know how I would do with the amount of little stressors and bullshit there is all the time if it wasn't for being healthy and vitality and knowing just things to eat. Like if I get a headache for even a second, even the inklings of a headache comes knocking, I immediately know what to do. And that is such a power to have, to not rely on anyone outside you and know exactly what to do, that you can look after your body. Because you were given this body in a way, you're born into it. Why not understand all the intricacies of how it works so that way, wherever you go with it, you can thrive. And I find it fun, by the way. I'm a digital nomad, so I'm traveling 99% of the time. I'm always in a different place. Like this week, I'm in LA. I'm in the Hollywood Hills with these guys. Next week, I'm Big Sur. Next week, I'm in Canada. Next week, God knows. I'm literally somewhere different almost every week. So I've had to learn to like make this work no matter where I am, even in foreign countries. So anyways, shall we? This is a big one. Now, this is not meant to be taken as anything religious. I'm not even religious. And if you are, that's awesome too, but it's not meant to be seen as that. But this is a cool one. And this is actually a lot of fun. This could be weirdly even some frame control thing. I don't even know what this is, but I have had this amazing thing that I've been doing for the last 10 years, and it's called gratitude. And it's before a meal. I actually just tell whoever I'm with, hey, just shut your eyes for a second, just grab my hand. And usually it's awesome when there's a group of people, 5-6 people at a table. Everyone just links hands, which is, I know, not probably friendly in a COVID environment, but like imagine it. And everyone just shuts their eyes. And usually I just nominate 1 or 2 people at the table, usually a guy and a girl. And I just say just say the gratitude. And it's not even that they're saying anything like Christian or religious. It's actually just suddenly someone starts talking and saying something like, thank you to the chefs who prepared this wonderful meal for us. Thank you for the food, these potatoes that were growing in the soil in Nova Scotia. Thank you for this. Thank you for the beautiful water we just drank. And, thank you for the awesome day we're all having and how nice it is to be together with friends and people looking forward to the future. And these will go on sometimes for weirdly 5 minutes at a restaurant with everyone staring at you and the waitress or waiter coming over and delivering your food in front of you while everyone's doing it. And usually people are getting so happy and excited. And I've just seen such amazing conversations after that from people actually getting a chance to share that gratitude. So, hey, in the spirit of Thanksgiving, in that sense, I think it's a really beautiful thing. And I've always found that when you open your eyes, and I've asked almost every person after doing this, how do you feel about your meal after? When you look at your meal, it's like someone like John or Ibrahim took up the contrast and like adjusted the camera settings and the lighting, and the food suddenly just looks so much more colorful, so much more beautiful. And you swear the food's contrast just changed and it became this amazing Instagram shot, and it tastes so good. And that's the crazy thing of doing gratitude. And you know what? Why not? It just seems logical to thank someone or thank something for this beautiful experience of having a meal in front of us. Because God knows there's a lot of people that don't get that opportunity to go out to restaurants with friends and be together. There's a lot of people in the world who don't have that. So why not say gratitude? So I would call this principle conscious eating. And this is something that I just think is really important, because here's what the opposite is. And I've witnessed this a lot. When you sit down with people, watch how they eat. A lot of people, as soon as the food's placed in front of them, like savage animals, just start picking at it and going in, and no one knows what they're doing with the fork and the knife. And they're just shoving food into their system, not even giving their bodies or digestions a chance to fight back and like digest it, break this down. It's just like suddenly it's being shoveled in. And when you actually take that second and you pause and you really enjoy and see what's there, you go slower when you eat. And that conscious eating style has been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt scientifically to make a major difference, that when people chew more, I'm talking 10, 15 times versus 2 times and then just swallowing it, it makes a major difference for how easy it is to digest it. And that's just logical. You think the food's now smaller size as well. By taking that time, you also get the sebaceous glands inside the mouth. This is actually a microbiome in and of itself, which, by the way, they're figuring out microbiomes are in our nose, on our skin, in our mouth, in our throat, and in our digestive system. That's actually definably different. Each one is its own ecosystem. They all work together, but they're all uniquely different. When you give your mouth a chance to actually produce the chemicals and the saliva to actually absorb the food, it sends signals to your digestion and to your brain what's going on, and you start to absorb this better. So this conscious eating is not only in a sense spiritual, it's also very scientific, of eating slower, eating more consciously, and just chewing and enjoying your food more. It makes a major difference, because why even eat in some sense? It's not just to get the nutrients, it's also to feel pleasure. Because if it was just about getting nutrients, we would just all be drinking green juice from Air One and spending $12 a green juice. No, we're eating food to enjoy it. So why not slow down and enjoy the experience? So conscious eating, you can involve a blessing or not. By the way, it's not like you, obviously no one has to do anything I'm saying, but if you were to do it, it's basically in the premise of, sometimes I do it even just for 10, 15 seconds. I don't even shut my eyes. Sometimes I'm just looking at the meal before I dig in and eat it. And I'm just looking and just sending my gratitude to it and just saying, thank you. It's really, really awesome I have this. That's all. Boom, I start eating. So it could be like all the way up to 10-minute, people are crying at the table, to 2 seconds. Thank you for this beautiful meal. It doesn't have to be any big situation created out of this. So we're going to say like, chew 10 to 15 times per bite. And by the way, it's not like it's some logical thing every time. I did this for like a couple weeks and it became just an automatic habit. Now, sometimes when I'm at the table with someone watching them eat, I'm just like, oh, I'm just naturally eating and chewing 10, 20, sometimes even 30 times and just really savoring it. So you naturally will train yourself to eat slower, and eating slower is really, really critical for digestion. So we'll say chew 10 to 15 times to start. And let's say plus a little blessing. Okay. Eat till 80%. Let's say 80% full. So this is something that is insane how much it'll change your life. If you just stop eating to the point where you're gorged and you have like a Buddha belly or a dad bod after. If you just stop around 80%, meaning try to stop eating right around the point when you're noticing you actually still want another bite, but you stop anyway. It's also a matter of self-control. When you stop a little prematurely from finishing your meal, it changes the dynamic of how you digest that meal, because you're not overstuffing the system. It's like going to a gas station and filling your tank, and then you just keep pumping and pumping and pumping, and there's gas coming out. It's like, it's too much. Let your digestive system work. Leave a little extra room. Try to eat up to the point where you're like 80% full, and you will just notice you have way more energy throughout the day. See, the whole key that I find with eating is I always know when I screwed up. And whenever I screw up, I know exactly what I did. I'm like, I overate. Okay, what did I do beforehand? Oh, I had some cold wine. Like maybe that wasn't a smart move. I could see all the little things I did. And it's oftentimes less even about the food than just about some of these little habits that can make a big difference. So eat till about 80% full. That one alone will change your life. I've had more people tell me that that's been a game changer for them, for having more energy throughout the day, getting more done and being more productive by just not eating to the point where they're gorged. Try to like stop around 80%. So the next, and this is something you can actually do during the meal. Who's heard of diets called macrobiotics? Has anyone heard of that? So macrobiotic, okay, awesome. So macrobiotics is basically eating a very balanced proportion of different living enzymatic foods like sauerkraut, kimchi, and eating in proportion with carbs, having a thing of greens there. It's kind of what you would naturally think is just a balanced meal to eat. Now, when it comes to eating in this like macrobiotic way, there's a lot of foods you can actually add into your meal while you're eating it that can make a major difference. For instance, I'm Canadian, so I get 2 Thanksgivings. I get the American one when I'm here, and I also cheat and get the second one in Canada. So I'm eating a lot of turkey throughout the year, plus 2 Christmases usually. I've kind of like family and friends all over, so I'm always eating a lot at celebrations. I've had to find little hacks to get around the dad bod, the too much turkey experience. So one of the secret little ones I figured out is sauerkraut and kimchi and some of these raw living foods that are fermented are actually really, really underrated and make a major difference and actually add a nice flavor to the meal. So when it comes to things like, let's say a turkey dinner, if you actually add sauerkraut with it and get, obviously same as the premise over here, you want to always get raw, you want to get organic. And with things like sauerkraut, you actually want to make sure it's in the refrigerated aisle, because believe it or not, even things that are supposed to be fermented and good for you, oftentimes are still at the grocery store pasteurized. So you want to make sure it explicitly says raw or uncooked or some phraseology around that, because if it doesn't, it probably is pasteurized, and especially if it's room temperature on the shelf. So you want to get things in a refrigerated aisle, glass, small company produced it. That's how you're going to get the best value. So you can have things like sauerkraut. So we're going to call it macrobiotic. It's kind of creating that on every meal. And the great thing is you can add it to like almost every single meal. So for instance, sauerkraut. And you can get really bomb sauerkraut with things like superfoods in it. So they put all types like juniper berries in it, kale, even though I don't like kale. They put all types of different things in sauerkrauts now at health food stores. It's pretty incredible. Sauerkraut, that goes obviously with things like more meats. You can do kimchi, which is more of an Asian style. You can do things like in Italy, when I was there, they love aperitifs. So little digestive drinks you have with your meal. And those are good, like Aperol Spritz. You can order that at restaurants too. So aperitifs. And you can also take, I had a couple written down to make sure I didn't lose them here. Yeah, you could also drink fermented things too, by the way. You can have obviously like Jun, we were just talking about, kombuchas. You can even get shrubs. These are all different fermented drinks. You can have those with the meal, and that's a really good source of getting that liquid nutrition in you, as well as helping to digest your meal. The general premise in nutrition, the way they look at it is, it's not good to drink liquids with a meal, as much as that kind of wrecks the experience, especially if you guys like drinking wine with your meal, or you like drinking, a beer, or you like having a scotch or something with a meal. It's a nice experience. So I've always tried to find a way to like have my cake and eat it too. So as much as I actually do love having a drink with a meal, not necessarily alcoholic, that's where things like kombuchas or Juns really come in. And you can actually find really cool flavor palettes. So if you're eating an Italian meal, you can get mint or basil type of Jun, and it tastes amazing with their kombucha. So kombucha also will go in that category.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
What about like for a South Asian meal having, or like Indian or Pakistani having lassi with it?
What's it called? Sorry.
It's called lassi. It's like basically like a fermented buttermilk style drink.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Mango lassi.
Huh. I mean, I feel like I've heard of it. I feel like I've heard of it.
I would say what I love doing is having that. Like I'll eat like a really heavy meal, and when the meal is done, I'll drink that on top of it. It'll conk you out. It'll make you fall asleep, but it aids in digestion like so much. It's like, it's been my go-to.
I think that's awesome. And that's the cool thing is, see, there's ones that are in every culture I've seen anywhere I've traveled, I found ones like that. I would say that's definitely a green light, especially probably when you're having it. I'm going to guess it's more of a local, more handmade experience. It's not a mass manufactured product. It's not going to have like chemical sugars or anything in it, right?
No, you can either have it salty or sweet. The latest rage is one that's mango flavored, but that's not traditionally done. It's either just with a bit of pinch of salt inside it, and that's usually Himalayan pink salt, because I mean, if your family's from Pakistan, that's the type of salt they have there. And then I actually like the sweet, and the sweet traditionally would be with unrefined cane. They'd take the juice and they'd make it out of it, and then they would pop that in. You can have it with refined sugar; it tastes fine, but I actually prefer the old-fashioned type, especially if you end up being able to make it yourself.
I absolutely love that. That's exactly it is. And see, it's like so much common sense too. Like you had it probably growing up, like it's something that you're familiar with. It's something that just makes sense to have. It's very cultural. Like everywhere I've been, they have some version of some fermented food that is had with a meal. And that's the secret. Is it's going back to a lot of what our ancestors did. That's actually the intelligence. That's actually the smart way to eat. And that's the thing is a basic health principle that's changed my life is how would kefir, I just saw, absolutely. What would your grandparents have done to make this meal? And if you realize your grandma probably couldn't have made this meal, that kind of gives you an alert. Or if you turn the ingredients around on a package and you can't figure out what that ingredient is. First off, if you can't pronounce it, big red flag for the most part, unless it's an herb. Herbs have generally strange names. So that's outside that. But if you turn something around and you can't pronounce it and your grandma couldn't have figured out how to get it, it's probably not something you want.
So that is probably something that I would drink. Like I work a lot outside, and it would be like on a really hot day, I'd be able to drink it by the gallon. And I want to say this goes back to like an ancient Vedic tradition. Yes. This is probably thousands of years old. And so it means my ancestors were drinking it and they did it exactly the same way.
That is the best.
From the Indian subcontinent.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. I really love hearing that. That's one of the big fun things about travel is you get to discover things like that. If you could actually type the name and put it in, I would love to research more on that.
I believe one of who was it? Marco put it in.
Oh, cool. That's how you spell it. Lassi.
Yeah.
It's great. I'm going to check that out.
My mom would make it at home and I would end up drinking it. And what I remember is it would just be made by the gallon. And for me, it was a go-to. It's like you have your midday meal. I've been sweating buckets and I would drink a bunch of that. I wouldn't cramp. Whatever food I ate would get digested. And for me, it was just absolutely fantastic. And even when I traveled to like the old country, that's exactly how people would have it. It would be exactly the same way. So this is pretty much, it's like one of those ancient Indo-Aryan type traditions, like Vedic. It's Ayurvedic, I guess. It's really quite ancient in origin.
What do you know? The stuff you just know are good for you are alkaline, the things that support you to be in vitality, support you to live long and not age, the things that actually help you feel good, that give you energy, that help all your organs so you don't get cancer or disease. It turns out all the stuff you know are the things that are really good for you. The crazy thing is all the things that we know are bad for us, for the most part, have a heavy molecular structure that actually activated charcoal binds to it. And not only activated charcoal, there's also another one called chlorella. You might have seen it before. And we're going to put in parentheses this because this is important because there's a lot. In case you guys didn't know, if you've ever bought supplements, 99% of it is pretty much garbage. And I've been in the industry for 10 years. I've worked with very prolific companies. I've seen the industry. I've seen it. I've seen the belly of it. There's a lot of fraud going on in health and wellness and people buying things and it's not doing anything. If anything, it's putting stress on the body. This is an important point. You never want to buy things like chlorella, if you ever do decide to buy this, unless it's broken cell wall, because it means they didn't do a necessary processing method to actually break down the cell wall. It's a thick cell wall that cannot be easily broken down by your digestive system. So if you were to buy things like chlorella powder or chlorella tablets and it wasn't broken cell wall, you're basically just pissing out your investment. And the same thing with mushrooms. As you guys know, I'm into the mushrooms. If a mushroom is not what's called dual extracted, means the mushroom's cellulose or its wall has not been broken down in alcohol or hot water, you're basically wasting your money on the mushroom because the body cannot process raw mushroom cellulose properly. Mushrooms have a thick cell wall called chitin. Chitin is actually like a lobster shell. If you can imagine just eating a lobster shell and trying to get nutrition out of it, it's kind of hard. Mushrooms are the same. You need to have it dual extracted. And a lot of herbs are this way too. Would you just eat green tea? Probably not. You're going to extract it in hot water. That's what pulls the antioxidant chains out. Hot water unlocks it. Alcohol pulls out what's called fat-soluble elements. These are the really deep levels of liver cleansing. These are things like beta-glucans in mushrooms or polysaccharides. These are polyphenols. So you need to have some of these supplements. You have to have them not only either extracted properly, broken down, or you have to have them in a carrier solution. A lot of supplements aren't in carrier solutions, so they're not absorbed properly. So I'll put carrier solution. And a carrier solution, by the way, is it's like a lot of times just a fat source. So for instance, we have niacin pills here. I took niacin I guess a month ago now, when we were in Utah. We were doing all the filming with the guys, and I took a niacin pill. You guys know what niacin is? Anyone recognize that? Niacin's like hell on earth. If you ever take a niacin pill, you take 100 milligrams on an empty stomach, you're going to experience hell. You're going to experience basically what a drug addict would experience coming off a hard drug. It is crazy. It opens up all your blood capillaries and basically causes your whole body to let go of all the little poisons and things in your skin layer and your fatty liver tissue, and your skin goes beet red. If you've ever been dramatically sunburnt like my white skin has been, you're actually going to have your sunburns where you got the most burnt come to the surface because it's left radiation in your skin. If you've ever had a vaccine, you're going to see marks on your skin exactly where you had your vaccine. It is insane what niacin, super weapon, vitamin B3. So niacin's a game changer. But the thing is this, I've had niacin many times throughout my life and not really had that much dramatic of an effect. Normally you would take niacin and you go into an infrared sauna or a Finnish sauna or dry sauna, and you sweat out a lot of the chemicals and toxicity that's stuck in the body. And it helps you because to get it out through digestion is a little difficult. Sometimes to eliminate through the normal channels hard. That's why you use your skin as a way to eliminate some chemicals. If I were to take niacin from a lot of brands, I wouldn't feel much. You wouldn't feel much. If I give you the niacin that we have in that room, it comes with pumpkin seed, it actually comes with aloe vera oil as a carrier, a fat solution. The second you introduce a fat carrier, it's just like adding digestive enzymes to a meal. It's just like adding sauerkraut to a meal. It does a dramatic difference, and suddenly it chemically unlocks it. You got to remember, your whole system is a chemistry set. Every single thing you put in there is going to be like a chemistry set of explosions, of absorptions, implosions, entropy. It's going to be insane. And this chemical set, you want to find the right chemical compositions that make it work. So carrier solutions actually activate a lot of these supplements. So you want to check whenever you're buying supplements that if it is something like a vitamin or a mineral or a nutrient, that it has some type of carrier solution. And they won't always call it a carrier solution, but you want to see that there's other things in it. So it's not just vitamin C. Vitamin C as ascorbic acid is not really vitamin C. That's the little dirty kind of secret of the industry. It's a very cheap manufactured product. You want to have vitamin C in what nature intended. So you want to have it from camu berries. It's a rare berry from the Amazon. It's the highest dose of vitamin C. You want to have it in acerola cherry, cranberries, cherries, fruits like oranges. If you have these in your supplement, and you can actually read the whole food supplementation is actually full whole foods, you're then getting the rind of it, the peel. All these things have little elements in it that are going to be amazing for you. So you want to get things as holistically as possible, as nature intended. So carrier solutions are key too. So this goes into the topic of what I was mentioning, like what do you do? What is your get out of jail free card? What's your end game if you screw up? Take activated charcoal, take things like broken cell wall chlorella, and take things like herbs, like mushrooms. So herbs can be things like, not that maca is necessarily the best for digestion, but a lot of times when you take a lot of these superfoods, let's call them superfoods up here. These are things that are, acai's one, camu, like I mentioned, raw cacao, raw chocolate, mushrooms. When you take these foods, a lot of times they carry a lot of what's scientifically unknown inside. Like we don't know everything that's inside mushrooms. We're still discovering it. We're still discovering compounds that we didn't even know what to call them. We just know they're active, and some that we are still learning. You're getting things that science hasn't even quite uncovered yet of what's inside some of these foods. And you put these in your system. I've always found if I ate too much or I'm having issues, if you get some superfoods, herbs, mushrooms into your body, it can just seem to bring you back to life. It gives you that spark. It hits you with something that fruit or vegetables can't seem to quite give you. It's just that extra notch. Now, by the way, you know, superfoods is a very marketed term. I want to be clear on that. A lot of people will call almost everything a super. Kale is not a damn superfood. Kale's great, got some vitamin K. It's got some issues with digestion in your system, so be careful of that. Raw kale is very tough on digestion. But kale isn't a superfood. Raw cacao is a superfood. Chaga mushroom is a superfood. Acai is a superfood. Aloe vera is a superfood. Superfoods, just if you start looking a little deeper, you'll start to see these are the foods with the highest nutrient capacity. There's a lot of foods out there. There's a lot of superfoods. There's a lot of herbs. You want to find what's called the 4 Sigma. They're good friends of mine. They own a brand. 4 Sigma is basically the idea of all the foods in the world and all the herbs you can take and all the different methodologies, what it would be like the top 10. That's kind of what you want to look at. And gratefully, there's a lot of those available on the supermarket shelves. I've kind of named a few for you guys right there. A lot of super mushrooms and herbs like those. If you start taking those in your body, you'll notice not only just as a get out of jail free card, but actually just an amazing dose of nutrients in such a small proportion. That's the insane part about health. You can get a lot from a salad, but it's amazing what you can get from a teaspoon of a superfood powder. Ibrahim, wasn't that superfood powder crazy today we took?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Actually, I think it may have had some effect on inflammation too, because I feel like when you try different types of foods, and I don't know which one it was, but because we added a lot of different things, but a lot of it helps with inflammation, because many of you, when you're feeling like brain fog, it's because you have inflammation. That's just the main fact. So yeah, I appreciate you adding that earlier.
He's bringing it over. So this is the brand. This actually, I know this guy. He's really cool. His name's Eric. He owns a company called Essential Medicina. If you guys have ever been to California or LA and you've ever gone to Cafe Gratitude, it's a really famous restaurant chain here. It's a vegan restaurant. They serve these as lattes. It's like a golden milk latte. So they take turmeric, there's red maca, ginger, maitake mushroom, cinnamon, red root, vanilla, rhodiola, goji, turmeric, and it goes on and on. You take a teaspoon of this and you mix it with some hot almond milk or hot milk. It is just profound how magical it can be and how much it can remove inflammation. How much it can remove things like if you have sleep or apnea issues. It's amazing how much herbalism can make such a difference. So I'm a big fan of herbalism because of that. Because for me, with my clients and for anyone that I'm helping with health and wellness, I always want to find what is the quickest possible way to get them a result. I do not want to take someone down a 2-month route to healing. They will go through it naturally, but I want to trick them into accidentally getting healthy by just loving the positive momentum cycle of noticing how good they feel when they eat healthy foods. To me, it's like, it's a very deep spiritual thing going on here. And I really think it's cool that everyone's evolving in this way. And I really feel happy that Owen's really coming hard in with like health and wellness and talking about herbs and superfoods. It's really cool to see. And he has a massive advantage over any of these guys. Like Tony Robbins and a lot of these guys take herbs. They're well known to take superfoods. They just don't talk about it. It's cool that Owen mentions it. He goes outside of what's normal frame and self-development, and we'll talk about things like health and wellness. And that was something when I first saw Owen doing the video at Dragon Herbs. I don't know if you guys caught that years back. Owen had a video when he was at Dragon Herbs with Brendan Carter, Keto King. And he was trying Chaga and Reishi. And at the time I had kind of just gotten really into it. It had been about 2 years of like really learning about it. And when I saw Owen doing that, I was like, oh my God, that's why. You couldn't bring this information down. You couldn't channel it through. You couldn't get to this level of connecting the web of reality and social conditioning without having that advantage of health and wellness. It's just, to me, it's such an advantage to have, and it changes your life. And it adds a rich dynamic layer to your life where every meal becomes fun. Every day becomes fun because you don't know what weird supplementation route you're going to go down or what weird diet thing you're going to do, or what Ibrahim was talking about earlier, what weird lifestyle thing you're going to do, like an ice bath or an ice shower. When you do those things, it's a game changer. He gave a thumbs up in case anyone saw it. I learned something really interesting that actually makes showering really, really game changer. And you'll probably think of this every time you're in the shower right now, washing your hair. When I was talking to this master of hair and beauty and skincare, is how, man, he's like 60 now, Anthony Morocco. And Anthony told me that what he learned from his master, and this is a guy who cut presidents' hair, multiple presidents' hair, the Kennedys would all go to this guy. He was cutting like presidents' hairs. So he was very famous in the industry, and he left because he saw how much chemicals were used. And he later learned about herbalism and started creating these skincare formulas and shampoos and conditioners. And they're great products. They're very natural though. They're like basically taking dirt from a pond and mixing it together with leaves and then putting it in your hair. It's crazy wild. But there was something he told me, and I'll never forget it, and it adds to the Wim Hof principle. When you're in the shower, he said you never should put hot water on your head, on your scalp and your hair. It actually damages the follicles and actually dries your hair out significantly. So he always told me, whenever you're in the shower and you're going to wash your hair in cold water. Go icy cold if you can. It also stimulates your head, and actually, believe it or not, there's even a version of a microbiome in our hair, our scalp, and the bacteria that forms there. It's actually very healthy for it if you actually give it cold, icy water. And just think of our ancestors. Think of how long our ancestors experienced their version of cleansing, or washing their hair, or showering, was jumping in a cold, frigid river. That's why it's so cool Wim Hof is sharing. And I love the guy and what he's done. I've met him a few times and picked his brain on things. And that guy's on it. He's awesome. And it's a cool thing to always remember whenever you're in the shower, if you want your hair to be looked after even better, and you want nice, soft, luxurious hair that's actually not being dried out or damaged over time, turn the shower to cold during that period of time. You're going to get all the benefits of Wim Hof. You're going to get all the changes of going into a parasympathetic state later in the day, like Ibrahim and I always love talking about. And you're going to actually nourish the head and the scalp and affect your hair positively versus negatively. The hot water is not good for the scalp. So that could be your little excuse during the shower. Whenever you put your head underneath the water, turn it freezing cold, get it cold on your head, then turn it back. That's like a really unique way. And it always stuck whenever I think about that. He stuck that in my head so deeply when he told me, because I'm obsessed with like having good hair. Weirdly, but he told me that, and that was something that's always stuck with me, is cold water for the hair. Don't put hot water on my head. So that's a big one. Anyways, it's an honor doing this, and I love doing this for you guys. And hopefully you guys are getting some value from health and wellness stuff here at the RSD seminar. So the second thing, this is one that is interesting. Have you guys heard of coffee enemas? Yeah. So coffee enema, to put it plain, is basically taking a tube and putting it up your ass and funneling warm coffee up your ass. And what that does is it actually starts to stimulate your prostate, which is really good for us, by the way. It starts to stimulate your prostate and actually opens what you could call as capillaries. It's not the correct term. I can't remember what exactly they like to call it, but it opens up basically the layer of your liver and your intestine, your gallbladder, your prostate. It actually starts to soften them in a way, kind of like if you got in a bath and it was warm and you're like kind of like melting into it a little bit. That's what it does, but the coffee's up your asshole doing it. So it starts to free up all the, it's going to be a little disgusting, but all the undigested fecal matter that's in your system, which, by the way, is very disturbing how much people are walking around with. You know, when people say you're full of shit, well, it's kind of true. Turns out that when they've done studies to actually check how much people have of fecal matter that's not like shit in their body, that's in their intestines, that's not been digested, believe it or not, it actually ranges between 12 to 15 pounds. You're being poison dripped by your own intestines because of all the undigested fecal matter. And how does this happen? Do gorillas walk around the wild and have undigested fecal matter in them? No. And they've tested it, by the way, as well. There's a great books on Candida out there. I think his name is Jeff McComb. He talks about this specifically. If you guys want to research this, you won't believe how much you'll learn about digestion and also health and wellness. I think it's Jeff McComb, and he has a book all about, just look up Candida. He's probably the leading expert on Candida. And Candida is a fungal overgrowth in the body that makes you, like a parasite, want sugar all the time and heavy fatty carbs, and makes you basically gain weight and gets you out of control with your body. So Candida forms over time, by a lot of different factors, which I won't go into right now. But anyways, he was someone that really spearheaded this research on it. He's a brilliant doctor, a lot of podcasts out there of him. And he talks about how much of this undigested fecal matter is in the body. And 12 to 15 pounds is quite significant. And it's poison tripping you because your body has a very hard time getting it out. And the reason it even got there in the first place was because of unnatural eating. This stuff can back up over time. And the body literally is just like it's like a dump that has just too much stuff. The sewer's backed up and your body starts pushing it to hide it off in areas because it's just so overwhelmed. So getting this material out of you is really key. And I can tell you, if you suffer from headaches a lot, migraines, this coffee enema process will absolutely be a game changer for you. You will probably within the first hour go through a level of mental clarity that it could be only described as taking ayahuasca. Not that I've taken it, but it is a clarity like you will not believe. It's like you just came out of the womb clarity, but you have all your knowledge. It is such a game changer to be able to have a coffee enema because it's the first time you're really getting a lot of this undigested matter out of your body, and your body doesn't have to work at trying to chip away at the stone and get this poison out of you. So game changer on the coffee enema. But, funny enough, I wasn't even going to necessarily tell you to do a coffee enema, although I would obviously recommend it as I'm talking about it. What I'm actually going to say is something a little different. I'm going to say, if you ever eat too much food, I want you to lay down on the right side. Lay down on your right side. There's a secret little knowledge step around coffee enemas that the guy who actually invented it, his son, I met and I got to interview him and got to know a lot more. It's called the Gerson therapy. One thing they recommend when you're doing the coffee enema that's really important is they always tell you to lay on your right side. That actually alleviates a lot of pressure on your intestines and actually allows you to digest the matter easily. So, and also release a lot of the carnage inside your body that needs to just leave. So you could do a makeshift version of your coffee enema by not putting a hose up your ass and coffee up there. And you could use Chaga tea, by the way, as well. Instead, just lay down on your right side. If you ate too much food, get in your fetal position and lay on your right side. It'll make a dramatic difference. Try it over and over again. Eat too much, lay on your left side one time, lay on your right side. You'll notice it's like a 50% difference. So that's a little weird game changer. Whenever I've eaten too much, the first thing I do is I go lay down and I just lay on my right side, or I lean like as far over to my right as possible while like chilling and talking to people. So that's something they talk about. I thought it's very interesting. It's something that makes a game changer effect for a lot of people. When I've had Thanksgiving dinners and someone's like, oh, I ate too much. I'm like, just go lay down, lay on your right side. I turn them on their right side, put a blanket over them. 30 minutes later, they're in a much better state of mind. So that can make a weird difference. Sometimes these little lifestyle hacks, just one little twist.
Shane, do you know why that occurs?
It's because it starts to alleviate the pressure that's on the intestinal tract and the liver. It creates a gap. The problem is if you lay on your left, a lot of what's centered there, actually it compresses too much and doesn't allow things to flow easily. There's just something special about the right side from what they've described. Now, if you read the book, I'm sure he explains in detail and ad nauseum about it, but it's something that I just remember reading probably 7 years ago and just started applying it and just like, oh, this actually works. But forgive me if I don't know exactly why on that, but from what my understanding is, it's alleviating a lot of the pressure on the intestinal tract and the right side, because the organs aren't just like symmetrical. They're not like, you know what I'm saying? Like certain organs are on certain sides of the body. It creates more of a gap there for your body to actually release some of this and help the food move through the intestinal tract. Capiche? Number 3, last thing on the digestive side is classic. What the hell just happened there? Digestive enzymes. You guys have obviously heard of that. You see them all the time. There's a lot of products out there. And to be honest, there's a lot of good products. There's a lot of bad products too. It's tough to know. Generally speaking, as you know, you want something with higher bacterial count. So, I mean, these brands will quote things like, this has 10 billion acetosophilus probiotic strain this and that. It's like, there's a lot of this stuff. The key is this: go and get what you feel is to be a good one. Because honestly, there's a lot of good ones. If you just go to refrigerated aisle at a lot of health food stores, which is better than getting a dry digestive enzyme. The refrigerated ones are usually a lot better. You want to be able to decipher the brand being good or not on simple things, actually, with digestive enzymes. I've found, and what this goes for the whole supplement industry, be very, very conscientious with any brand that's using magnesium stearate, talcum powder, or stearic acid in their supplement. And if you want to know how to spell any of those or what those are, just go to your supplement cabinet right now. I'll pretty much bet you money that one of those supplements, if not all of them, have those in the non-medicinal ingredient section. This is where they get you, because magnesium stearate, talcum powder, and stearic acid are all flowing agents. These are chemical additives. Now, they're going to say it's from vegetable source. Cocaine is from a plant. There's no relevance to that point when they say that. Doesn't matter if it's from a vegetable source. Poisons can be made out of anything. If you take certain acids from an apple, you can make a poison that could fuck you up bad. Just so you know, nightshades are so poisonous to some people that if they ate what would be a normal pasta dish to you and I, you would dramatically cause damage to that person's entire digestive system. It'd be very hard to reverse. Some people have extreme toxicity to certain foods. So the point being, be careful of anything trying to pawn it off as like it's a vegetable source. It doesn't matter. If it's a flowing agent, it's a flowing agent. And the problem is what happens with these supplements is these supplements, to get these things into the little pills, these tubes that they take the powder extractions and send it through the tubes, they get clogged. Now, large multinational corporations don't want to stop production. So they put these flowing agents in there in what they call minute doses. And the question is always, what if I were to take your drinking water and I were to pee just, a little bit, like just a tablespoon of my pee and put it in, and I just told you it's a minute dose, you probably wouldn't drink it. So the thing is, when it comes to chemicals that are hardcore, and the reason I'm going to hammer on this one is because this is where the supplement industry gets a lot of people, because this is something you're doing for your health. You're spending money, and usually they're not cheap. Supplements are generally not cheap, usually upwards $40 to $50 for a common product that's a supplement. And people are putting these chemical additives that are so poisonous that if you were to take a teaspoon of magnesium stearate, you could literally kill someone. It is that strong as a chemical. That's like taking aspartame in a crazy high dose beyond even what's in a normal like Coke Zero. It is just so poisonous. And the problem is you don't just take a little bit of one supplement. You're taking 3 or 4 of these supplements, 3 or 4 of those calcium magnesium pills, 3 or 4 of those niacins. Don't take that many niacins, but you know what I'm saying. You're taking a lot of different pills and you're taking them every day, and you're doing this for years. This builds up, and these are very, very poisonous. And people, when they do research studies, they actually find a lot of these chemicals are latent in people's systems. So why take in the nutrient while also taking in the poison? Instead, just take in the nutrients. So key point, always make sure when you look at your supplements, the way to catch them is you always look at the non-medicinal ingredients, see what they're putting in the non-medicinal ingredients. And if it says magnesium stearate, talcum powder, or stearic acid, it's generally not a high quality supplement. It means it's a mass manufactured product. It's probably white labeled, meaning that corporation probably has nothing even to do with it. They're just the marketing, branding, labeling. They just buy it from another mass manufacturing company and a lot of times from China, by the way. So just be conscientious, like where these products are coming from. And a lot of great things can come from China, by the way. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. Like some of the best reishi mushroom in the world is from there. A lot of the best herbs. But you also have to be careful when it comes to things like supplements coming from China. That's a lot of times kind of a red flag. So always look at non-medicinal ingredients. It's kind of like a little secret hack. And that'll give you a lot of information about things like your digestive enzymes. Like if you see those ingredients, those excipients, those flowing agents in your non-medicinal ingredients, you generally want to avoid it. It's not going to be a high quality product. Because if they're putting that in, you're not only getting poison from that, what's the quality of the rest of the product, right? If they're not willing to stop the machine, clear the tubes, and just do it that way, do it the right way. So anytime I see a red flag with any company, it usually is more than one red flag. You'll see beyond if you keep looking. So anything that shows up, if I get any weird, eerie feeling about a brand, I usually just stop, because it's usually, if you could identify there's a red flag, there's probably 100 you're not even seeing about that product. So digestive enzymes, game changer. You can take those at the end of the meal or before. People generally seem to like taking them at the end. I've seen research on both sides about when you can take them. I wouldn't fuss too much about it. I personally do find I like to take it after. And usually that's me getting in the car after the restaurant. I go into my apothecary kit in the trunk. I literally have a kit. It's like a mushroom hunting basket filled with supplements. I'm like, okay, everyone, it's time for your medicine. Full of all the digestive enzymes and everything. And it becomes a chemistry set. So again, health can be fun. It can be something that you incorporate into your life, and you could experiment and start to become very aware with your body of what affects it in different ways. What gives you mental clarity, clears brain fog, what helps with digestion, or what helps if you are inflamed, or what you notice, like, whoa, when I take that, the whites in my eyes are glowing. So it's really cool to notice these things, and you start to see how you improve over time. That's the fun thing. And I think as guys, it's something that's really cool. Health to me is like a video game in which your character is getting new suits or new gear. It's constantly like you're improving your own astronaut physical body in this universe. The more you put into your body and the more you become aware of all the different changes occurring, you're becoming better and you're becoming stronger and smarter and faster and quicker and sharper. And these things assist you in making more money in a business. I hope you guys benefited from that. I hope that added some value to your nights and also made Thanksgiving fun or whatever family meals you have coming up for the holidays. I want to make sure you guys thrive and you're winning at the highest levels. And I think the highest advantage you can get is when the vessel you walk around with day and night, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the rest of the time you're in this body, other than if you take a really strong psychedelic, you're going to be in this body. And if you're in this body, why not have this thing optimized to the maximum degree? And it's going to assist you in every single way possible. And you're also going to feel really good. So that's the talk for tonight. Do you guys have any questions or anything, any comments or anything you want to say before we check out here? Good.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If I have supplements and they're in powder form, are there certain oils I should take in order to increase their absorption? Or should I take it with a glass of hot water? Is there anything that I can do to use what I already have that may not be fully activated or available?
That's a great question. You actually were very right on that on both points. You can actually take things like pumpkin seed oil. You can take things like flaxseed oil. There's many different oil carriers, even believe it or not, just even a teaspoon of olive oil, which is also amazing for your digestion, by the way. Olive leaf's really strong too if you can get it infused in. These different fat carriers will assist you greatly in digesting your meal and also help you digesting your supplements. So add in fat sources to as many things as you can, including things like when you're eating a meal, if you're having a salad, have an avocado with it, have a natural fatty source of that. Add fats into foods. And I'm sure you guys are obviously aware, you guys probably are very familiar, Bulletproof and the whole mindset. So I won't iterate deeply, but how much discoveries have been made about fats as being actually some of the healthiest things for us. And for years, people were duped by what people perceived as good science, saying that fats were bad and run away from them and fats make you fat. But the truth of the matter is healthy, real fats, good quality fats like CLA content in grass-fed beef or avocados with its rich layers of omegas, these healthy fats actually help you burn fat. It's the other way around. They actually provide you a nutrient-dense fat that actually helps your body not need to manufacture its own. So healthy fats will help you digest your meals. So when you're taking your supplements, if you don't have a carrier solution inside of it, meaning you don't have something like aloe vera or pumpkin seed oil or some of these things inside the supplement, which by the way, there's a lot of brands that do have it, so it's not that hard. But if they don't, take olive oil with it, take pumpkin seed, take flax seed. There's a lot of different options there you can take. So that's a great point. And hot water is good too. With supplements, one of the best things is, because you're going to drink it with a glass of water likely, when you're drinking it, it's better if it's warm water. Warm water is very, very beneficial to the system. Your body loves warm water as opposed to cold water. There is rare scenarios you want it, but hot water will help that extraction a little bit, not a huge amount, but it will make a difference for digestion, for supplementation.
Shane, regarding that taking of the oils, would that be before taking the supplements or after taking the supplements?
As long as it's within the 5-minute span, you're going to still capture a lot of the benefits. If you go too far out of that, whether it's before or after, it's not going to be very effective. But you want to try to get it in the same batch. And I found like within 5 minutes of doing it, it works pretty well. And you'll feel it, by the way. You'll become very aware, especially on an empty stomach, which I recommend you guys try a lot of these things. Try some of these herbs and supplements on empty stomachs. Go very light, and you'll notice how much of an effect you get from even a small dose if you have an empty stomach, and you can really feel it. Then you'll really understand why, Owen is like gung-ho about things and herbs. especially when you try it on an empty stomach, you actually become aware of like, whoa, you feel the layers of consciousness you go into. So key point, like make sure you guys like really experiment and figure it out for yourself because it's fun. There's a lot of different herbs out there. You don't have to get dogmatic about like only one brand or one product. There's just so many. Like Essential Mendocina, they have like 30 herbs in this one formula. Black Magic, what people don't know, there's actually 8 other herbs in there. It's not just Chaga. There's juniper, there's sarsaparilla, there's dandelion, there's burdock. Every one of these could be its own supplement. And by the way, I also mentioned this. This is a really good point about supplements. Liquid form is always better than dried form, almost always. Some of the best products I've ever had, and the reason why I chose to make Black Magic liquid, which is way harder, by the way, way harder. Do you know how many bottles we ship that break? It is no matter how much we wrap it, how much heavier it is in cost-wise, liquid is much more effective though. It's well worth it. So it's not to say I won't ever have a dried powder product, and it's not to say they're not good. They're great. But when you have them in liquid form, your body activates and absorbs it way quicker. Again, I mentioned the sebaceous glands. It responds better to a liquid substance than it will to a dried powder. There's something that happens in a drying process that seems to not convert over all the magic of the properties of that food. I've always felt that. So I've worked with a lot of brands that sell dried powder products. If you can get it in liquid form, it's always going to be stronger, usually more expensive for a good reason. But that is something that will make a major difference with your supplements if you actually get liquid version extractions. Yeah, Rob, go ahead.
If you had to like rank supplements and like on a list of priority, how would you do it? Like what would be the top 3 to start with?
Okay. I'd say top 3 is the last thing I ended with, digestive enzymes. I would say that is definitely in the top 3. The reason is because how much of our food's not being digested. As I mentioned, how much is already clogged up in the body. Your digestion, guys, is going to be the most intrinsically connected organ system to your brain. So if you want your brain to function faster, you want to be able to free associate better, you want to have better levels of focus, clarity, awareness, concentration, all factors involved with becoming successful in every modality in life. Your digestion is the number one thing you can do other than directly using herbs on the brain. Not putting it on your brain, but taking them that work on the brain, is you work on the digestive system. It's your second brain in many ways. So that's why I say digestive enzymes are huge. They are, Rob, one of the more expensive ones. Unfortunately, but in a lot of ways, they're also some of the best things you can take. And they're hard to encapsulate. To catch living probiotic enzymes or prebiotic enzymes or living bacteria is a tough thing to pull off. But it's probably worth it to have everyone do it. But Rob, I want to also say what I had mentioned earlier about apple cider vinegar, that's actually a really good way to get living enzymes in your life, and things like kombucha and sauerkraut. And you can do these yourself, by the way, guys. I want to make sure this isn't about like even buying a lot of stuff. Not that you're going to make your own apple cider vinegar or coconut oil. It seems a little tedious, but things like kimchi or sauerkraut, you can make this. Kombucha, you can make yourself. Kombucha is not hard. There's a lot of options, and there's so many videos on YouTube on how to do this. It is so, make it yourself at home, and you forge a bond with food when you make it yourself, or your garden, if you guys garden at all, or wild forage. Like there's a certain connection that happens when you produce your own food, especially fermented foods, because it's about time. It's not about heat. It's not fast. It takes time. And that time of going and looking at it, shaking it around, put it on your favorite book, let it absorb some knowledge, maybe. Those little things make a big difference towards you really thriving and being optimal. You start to pay attention to how everything starts to affect you, especially when you're doing your own fermentation. So you can easily get a lot of your fermented bacterial strains from things like apple cider vinegar, sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha, jun. We were mentioning earlier some of the options. I don't know if they're still there. I don't see it, but we were talking about just a whole bunch of different options of things you can take. Even again, sourdough bread, fresh organic sourdough bread, even the yeast on that actually activates a lot of the prebiotic strains in your digestive system. So there's definitely ways to do it where you don't have to buy digestive enzymes. And actually one of the best digestive enzymes I've loved, because I travel most of the time, as I mentioned, I don't always have access to a fridge very easily. Sometimes I'm camping, or sometimes I'm going between, driving 6 hours to another hotel. I don't want these enzymes to go bad. So I actually found a product. It's actually green papaya extract. And green papaya extract is it's a digestive enzyme, and it's very strong. So you can actually get that. It's like $15 for like a 30-day supply. So it's very fair price. Green papaya extract. That is what you want to look for. If you can find it, it's tough to find. You could probably just go on Amazon or some of the different options out there. Remember, always look up the non-medicinal ingredients though. Be careful. Most of these type of digestive products have a lot of that garbage stuff in their flowing agents inside there. So just double check on that. So digestive enzymes are one. The second I would recommend is mushrooms. Obviously not going to plug Black Magic, but you guys know how I feel about good mushrooms. So Black Magic is an option. Just saying. We'll say Owen said it. So there's mushrooms, and you want to get dual extracted mushrooms. A great brand that actually makes it quite affordable and in a lot of ways and very easy to take is also Four Sigmatic. They're really good friends of mine. I actually, they're like my older brothers in the industry, and they taught me a lot. I'll write down their name too, so you guys have it. Or if someone wants to write it, you guys have probably heard of them, I would imagine. Four Sigmatic, they're kind of one of the leading brands in the industry for selling mushroom products. They have these instant mushroom powders like reishi, lion's mane, turkey tail, chaga, all of these that you can just mix with hot water. They have mushroom coffee, which is really good too. And I say really good, not taste-wise necessarily. It's not the best tasting products on the market, but it's good. It's easy to carry. It's easy to travel. If you're flying somewhere or you're going for a long drive, you just go get hot water somewhere and mix it. It's just a great option. So I would say medicinal mushrooms are the strongest you're probably going to ever get. Of all the things I've ever come across, nothing is going to touch mushrooms. Like that is a game changer. So you want to get that in your system. And that's something I think Owen would agree with too. That's something we've had a lot of chats, like mushrooms are the top notch. The reason is we digestively absorb them so easily because a lot of the same DNA of mushrooms, believe it or not, is actually very similar DNA to us. Mushrooms are very similar. They're very similar in their skin and their texture, and they're very similar in like the levels of cold or heat they can handle as well. Mushrooms also have a lot of the factors that you want kind of all in one. So for instance, chaga has the most antioxidants of any known food. Raw cacao is second, raw chocolate. Chaga has all these minerals like magnesium, selenium, zinc, potassium, rubidium, cesium. It is literally off the chart when they check chaga. And I'm not talking small proportions like 2% rubidium no, we're talking like highest doses ever tested are on wild chaga mushrooms. So when you get these foods in your body, you're getting things like antioxidants, minerals, enzymes that go in and fight things like cancer, that go into the liver and actually help it support itself and cleanse poisons out. So mushrooms are like the all around, like the Bruce Lee, the one punch practice, 10,000 times. It's the mastery. So get mushrooms in your life. You guys could always hit me up on Black Magic Alchemy. DM me if you have any questions about any mushroom product in the industry. I probably either know the founder or I probably know where they're sourcing it from, and I'll tell you if it's good or not. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of it isn't. There is some really good stuff. There's not a lot of good stuff too, though. So be careful when you're spending money on mushroom products. They're expensive. Dragon herbs, by the way, is good. Owen and I love dragon herbs. Black Magic, obviously we do wild chaga. We focus on that. Four Sigmatic's another brand. If you get any of those options, you guys should be really green light. And the third option for what you asked, Rob, is I would keep it really simple with probably the most ultimate superfood of all time, water. Water is very underlooked at. Water is the thing you are consuming the most. So think about things that are really important to optimize. Okay, there's like 3 things. Think about it. This is going on 24 hours a day. Well, not all of these actually, but this one is at least breathing. It's important to learn how to breathe properly because unfortunately, when you see how adults are learning to how we're breathing constantly, we're doing very shallow breaths, very stress inducing cortisol increasing breath because we're always in fight or flight because our adrenals are not functioning properly because we're just being inundated by nonstop stressors of cars and driving places and work situations. And now COVID's added a lot for many people. So the amount of stress in people's lives is causing them also not to breathe properly. If you look at a newborn baby, the way a baby breathes is its stomach comes out when it breathes. Now we don't get down to our stomach when we breathe. Our belly doesn't go up. We breathe very, very shallow. We're not breathing properly. So learning to do a slow, deep breath. And I say the word slow because people say deep breaths, but the key is breathe slow and breathe in through the nose ideally. And that will really start to oxygenate your body. Wim Hof talks a lot about this, about, yes, exactly. It's such like a universally just reasonable thing. Master the breath and you will bring yourself into a parasympathetic state in which your nervous system is balanced and coherent. Your brain is functioning. You start to actually even cross the left and right hemispheres of the brain when you start to breathe naturally and you breathe into an alkaline state of your body. You're breathing in deep. So learn about Wim Hof and what he talks about. I think Wim Hof's probably one of the most intelligent and one of the most, how to put this, absorbable of all the people out there talking about breath work. There's a lot of yogis. I follow a lot of work like Osho's work that talk about breath work, but it can be a little bit convoluted or complicated. Wim Hof is just the best. He just like makes it so easy. Once I was at a seminar Wim Hof did, and he went through like 100 different breathing techniques he had learned. He just kept rattling them off. And he had been to Tibet and he had been to this temple and he'd been there and he'd been to this place in South America. And he went to this sacred village where everyone's doing ayahuasca. And he kept talking about all these breathing methods. And he says, you know what I realized? You know what I found out is the best breathing method? Whole silence in the audience. Just everyone, what's it going to say? What is it? The breathe in 2 times, hold it, then breathe out 4. What is it? Wim Hof, tell me. And Wim Hof just looked, says, breathe, motherfucker. And his eyes, and you can see the life in this guy. And he's just reminding you, everyone's so convoluted with all these different techniques. And they're not that they're bad. They're awesome. There's some really good ones for the parasympathetic nervous system. But what he's talking about is one of the basic masteries, the punch 10,000 times to become a master. Bruce Lee said, I am not afraid of the man who's practiced 10,000 punches only once. I am deathly afraid of the man who's practiced one punch 10,000 times. Well, that one punch is your breath. If you learn to master that, you change your entire life. And that's what Wim Hof is trying to say is it's not so much about all these techniques. What it's actually about is just remembering to get back to breathing again because of how often we're knocked off our wobble of that. So he wants to get you in that coherent state where you're just naturally doing it. Remember I told you guys about chewing 10, 15 times? And for the first little while, it's a little weird and awkward and everything's mushy in your mouth. But over time, it becomes very natural. And suddenly your body becomes habitually doing it. So that's when those things like the ultimate superfood to me is, well, what are the 3 things we do the most? Because that would be the thing that would change our life. So breathing is mastery. Like when you learn that breath, it changes everything. And every Zen parable has some reference to how important the breath is. There's a reason why meditation a lot of times follows the breath. So breathing properly, I think you could learn a lot from Wim Hof, or you could just learn yourself, breathe into your gut a lot more. Even when you're laying down, just be more conscientious of doing that even before going to bed. So breathing deeply is one. The second part of that principle is, what are you doing most of the day for what you're intaking internally? You're drinking water. But the problem is people are drinking water from the tap. And truth of the matter, guys, it's unfortunate, but our water is not clean like we've been led to believe. The water in America and Canada, in North America, has fluoride in it. And fluoride is a very, very toxic chemical neurologically to the system. It's been pawned off like it's good for the teeth. And the thing is, it's true to some extent. Fluoride that's in the earth is good for you. In fact, Chaga has fluoride in it, but not the same fluoride that's in our water. The fluoride in our water comes from the phosphate fertilizer industry. It's a chemical runoff that is so toxic in other areas of the world. The government makes the company or corporation that produces the phosphate fertilizers that are used for farming, it makes them pay for chemical dumping because the half-life on it is something like 500,000 years on fluoride. That's how chemically intense it is. Now, what happened is dentists started learning that, oh, fluoride is a really important element for our enamel and our teeth, and it actually builds the mineralization. But that wasn't the fluoride they were talking about. They're not talking about the chemical one. That's the runoff. They're talking about the natural fluoride that exists in wild spring water, that exists in foods, especially herbs, by the way. The thing that's in our water is a chemical runoff that's actually petitioned by corporations to get into the water. And then when you drink it, it's not helping your teeth. It's eroding your teeth. That's the dirty secret of it. And most of the world, 97% of the world, has actually banned it. It's not allowed to be put in the water. America and Canada, unfortunately, have done it. It's not even a conspiracy theory, but it may sound like it as I continue. But just be aware of this. So there's not only fluoride in the water, there's also chlorine, because they have to clean it, all the water from the toilet, and they have to clean it, plants. And the last thing, there's also pharmaceutical drugs in all of our water supply. On average, 21 pharmaceutical drugs from the studies that are out there showing there's chemical dosages of things like birth control, statins, low blood pressure medication, antidepressants, Prozacs in our water because people have dumped it down the drain. And unfortunately, chlorine and all the chemical processes they try to do to clean the water doesn't cleanse it completely. And you're left with these chemical residues that you're drinking every time you drink from the tap. Now, if you don't drink from the tap, then this is a long past story and you already know where I'm going with it. The best thing is you want to drink things like spring water. You want to drink or reverse osmosis, which doesn't still remove it, but it's less. There's also Kangen water, which is great because it's alkaline. But ultimately, I always like to bridge back to what did nature intend? What is nature intended? And our ancestors and our lifeblood going back throughout the years, we drank wild spring water. Now, I'm not telling you to go drink from the river pond. I'm not telling you to drink from the lake up the road. I'm telling you to go to a website called findaspring.com. Findaspring.com. It's a worldwide not-for-profit organization that people can do as a community-driven website, report where wild springs are. And you know it's a wild spring by, and by the way, I've been living on wild spring water for 10 years. My entire family in Canada does this, as well as probably hundreds of other people personally that I know are doing it, not to mention probably thousands from just YouTube that I've probably educated on just spring water. All doing this, plus many other people, you'd probably be shocked, underground spring water hunters. It's a very, very powerful principle. When you start getting the right water in your life, it changes your life because your body, as you know, is so much water and carbon. And water is going to be something that's going to help you fluidly. It's going to keep you light. It's going to stop you from being calcified and rigid. It's going to help your brain with all the fluids. It's going to help everything work. You're going to feel more energy when you drink good water. Your skin's going to be better. You're not going to age as quickly. You don't want those chemicals in the water every single day you're drinking to be affecting your skin quality or your brain. So findaspring.com. It's a great website. There's great springs. I know it's not the easiest thing to go get. There is websites you can buy spring water that comes right to your door in glass bottles. But spring water is if the water, first off, is on Find a Spring, it's going to be a spring because that's what people report there. And there's a lot of them all over the world. I've found them in Italy, Greece, Switzerland, Colombia, Canada, all throughout the United States. There's springs everywhere, guys. You would not believe it. It's such an underground thing, but don't tell anyone. We like it being super hidden. Go get your own water. And the way you know it's spring water is if it's coming up freezing cold. It's coming up against its own pressure, which is an unknown process still. And these aquifers are 100 to 150 feet below the Earth's surface. These are reservoirs that are completely untouched by man or woman. There's no chemicals that have reached it because the topsoil has actually filtered it out by that point. And this is water that's ancient water. It doesn't have the chemical residues that we have in our water in the tap or what you even get from reverse osmosis in a lot of cases because they're using tap water still. So that's why it's really game changer if you can get on this. And if you guys, I don't know where you guys are, so you're probably not near here, so I won't even say it, but there's probably, because you guys are probably worldwide. This is a worldwide organization, right? So you guys, wherever you are in the world, just look it up or ask, go to a health food store. You would not believe it. Every time I've gone to a health food store, no matter where I am, I ask, I'm in the section and sometimes I start talking to someone. I'm like, hey, do you get water around here anywhere? Oh, fourth concession. You got to go up the hill a little bit. You'll see the pipe coming in. It's just like the best. Like, damn. And you're vibrant. You're really vibrant and awakened. That's a weird commonality of all people that seem to drink spring water. I wonder why. You're going to sleep 8 hours a night, or at least what's best from what they say. It's debatable. Some people do better on less. I'm sure Elon Musk doesn't sleep 8 hours a day. I'm sure there's people who function at a high level that don't sleep 8 hours a day. So it's not like 8 glasses of water, 8 hours of sleep. Maybe. You have to know your body because some people do better on more sleep and some people do better on less sleep. Again, get to know your body. Don't let anyone try to tell you how to be healthy. You take that as a responsibility. And when you learn that and master that, it's a gift. It is an absolute gift you give yourself in this life. So with sleeping, you want to master your sleep. So one thing that I've loved that Owen talks about is the Dexter Kill Room. I don't know if he calls it that anymore. I just heard it a long time ago. And when these guys travel, when I travel with them, John, Ibrahim, and everyone go into the hotel room and basically take black garbage bags, big packages from like Costco, like big ones, and cover all of the windows with these. So no light comes in. All the TVs are unplugged. No lights are coming. No little red buttons glowing at you. None of the phones. I don't know if they actually unplug everything. John, I don't know if they do. Not if they do. Do you guys unplug the phones and the TVs?
Most everything, yeah.
Most everything. Okay, I'm going to have to initiate that process in there. We'll stop the electromagnetic chaos from affecting the mind over sleeping. Unplugging all these different lights is important because we didn't come from a state of having all this artificial light hitting us all the time. So when you actually start to remove all of these lights, which are very stimulating to pituitary gland and your pineal gland, they affect your pineal gland, by the way, is a real gland. I know it sounds like you hear a lot of hippie people in California talk about it. It's actually a gland. It's important. It's also called the third eye, you could say. It's a real gland. It actually exists in the brain. And this gland, it turns out, is important for a lot of shit. A lot of stuff. That's why I talk about it a lot. And you could say it's very connected to the prefrontal cortex and decision-making. It helps with consciousness, awareness, and memory and focus. And one thing the pineal gland does that not a lot of people know about, the pineal gland is where you actually start to secrete melanin from and melatonin that helps you sleep. So your pineal gland can get easily fluoridated or calcified by too much chemicals or fake minerals, you could say, like fluoride. And what happens is it stops producing melanin and melatonin. Melanin is important for the skin and for the hair and for the coloration and for energy as well. Melatonin for sleep. You want to not have lights at nighttime hitting you because it affects your pineal gland and its ability to secrete melatonin. So if lights are hitting you from artificial sources, it really drastically affects your sleep in a negative way. If you do a Dexter kill room, a full Dexter kill room, where you black out and tarp up all of the windows and take out all of the lights, you put your phone not only in airplane mode, just put it as far away from you as humanly possible. In another room is better unless you need it for an alarm. Although you will train your body with some of these techniques, becoming healthier. You will tell yourself what time you will wake up, and you will wake up at that time because you know you guys have that power over your body with your mind. So with your phone, keep it far away from you. No electromagnetics if possible. No lights. You will go into such a dark sleep, such a deep sleep of restoration that your body has not experienced in many years if you haven't done it, that you may not wake up for 10 hours. And I'm not joking when I say that. I've had people, after I recommended that to them, clients, didn't wake up for 12 hours. It's game changer because your body's dying for sleep. It's dying for full rest and melatonin release. So black out everything. Make sure when you sleep, you don't have those electronics near you. Read a book as a sedative. That's a great way to do it. I love reading science fiction at nighttime, or I don't like reading self-development at nighttime. I find science fiction really helps me put into like a nice deep state of consideration, imagination that puts it into really beautiful lucid states in the night when I'm dreaming. So use these little techniques. Drink warm tea before bed. Things like Chaga is really, really good. Chaga is the highest dose of melanin. Again, the panacea for everything. Chaga is going to help you with your pineal gland, and it's going to drastically help your sleep. One of the biggest things Black Magic clients tell us is, of course, the classic things like better focus, less brain fog. But one of the big ones is they sleep so much deeper, even within a week of taking Chaga mushroom. So it's a game changer. So sleep's important. So like I said, the three things, if you can optimize your water, your sleep, and your breathing, that will be far superior than really anything you're going to internally take. That's going to make a major difference. But again, as you can see, there's layers of this. Health is layers and layers and layers of depth. It just goes on and on. There's so much things you can learn about, so much you can study, and so many methodologies you can apply. So many things are lifestyle habits. So many things are posture and walking and breathing, cold baths, herbs, mushrooms, digestive enzymes, eating this way, lay on your right side. It goes on. And that's the crazy thing is like 10 years in, there's still like unlimited to learn. I'm always learning something new. Every week, I'm literally learning a new thing about health or reading something new. So it's a really cool mastery to get into. It truly is like getting a PhD is when you really go deep into this. And the cool thing is PhD is immediately adaptable and applicable to your body where you can receive instant results. And you can help heal family members if they're dealing with things. There's nothing better than having a family member complaining always of migraines or having inflammation or someone dealing with some really serious health problems or adrenal fatigue. And you start to be able to give them little things like little nuggets of gold, like where you give them, oh, you should take the supplement. And hearing that it made a difference, that's really special. It's really powerful. So health is your wealth. I love you guys very much. This has been really fun. I enjoyed having this conversation and giving you guys just like a nice little mental download of health and wellness. I'll wrap it there. Otherwise, these overhead lights are going to probably cause me to not sleep at all tonight. And yeah, I hope you guys keep crushing it. This mentoring group looks really awesome. I'm sure Owen is very proud of all of you guys. I hope all of you have an amazing, amazing holidays if you're celebrating. And just stay woke, stay free, stay liberated, and have a beautiful, beautiful night. Shane Tyler Milson, I'm out.
Thank you, Shane.
Go ahead. If you learned something new from Shane, unmute yourself and give him a round of applause. Go ahead and mute yourself, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Seriously, this is really incredible how holistically you explain everything. And like, I'm literally like a freak who goes really into depth. But like at the end, I'm like, damn, I do not even have so much questions because you touched everything. I'm like, fuck.
There's always more to
Seriously.
talk about.
I hope everybody took notes.